What's the deal, my people? You know it is Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you another one. And these are the creatures you can expect to see in Netflix The Witcher Season 2 and beyond, from A to Z. All ghouls are ghouls which have been devouring corpses for so many years that human flesh becomes irresistible and they begin to prey on the living. They are seen in crypts and on battlefields, frequently surrounded by ghouls. Simple folk do not notice the differences between these two types of scavengers, unlike witches, elves. Elves are members of the vampiric race which inhabits the lands of the Northern Kingdom, sister conjunction of the spheres. In many ways, elves are similar to two other species of intelligent vampires, mullahs and brooks, although seemingly less powerful than the latter. Silver can be used as weapons or chains and can hurt them, so they tend to avoid it. While resistant to sun, like hive vampires, they tend to almost black if affected by it too much. They have pointed ears, similar to elves. They prefer to prey on sleeping people and creatures. They inject their subjects with venom, causing nightmares. Vargas are creatures summoned by the beast. There are those who claim that they are ordinary dogs transformed into monsters by some curse. Packs of Vargas appear out of the blue in the middle of the night to kill those who are late getting home. People say Vargas are specters which materialize as ghastly dogs to persecute the living. Bicyclist. People claim that the beast is filled with such hatred towards all living things that even the breath is venomous and its glance turns the unwary to stone. The fact that witches often encounter Bicyclists in dungeons and cellars contradicts the legend that suggests these creatures can reproduce under any conditions like many of their nasty monster brethren. In fairy tales, the only certain way to kill a Bicyclist is by holding a mirror in front of its eyes to divert its deadly gaze. Bruxa is a very powerful type of vampire that takes on the appearance of a dark-haired young human, most often woman, but whose natural form is that of a large, black bat with sharp fangs and claws. It is one of the few vampire species that is not affected by the sun. A Bruxa is very agile, and only silver swords are effective against them. While they have sharp claws for up-close attacks, they can also let out a piercing scream from farther away that can send even a grown man flying through the air. The Bruxa are in the habit of singing their native language, especially after they drink blood, and their songs are described as silent, shrill, and sickening. Thanks to these, Bruxa can manipulate and bend to the will of any human by altering their dreams and turning them into horrible nightmares. Scimitars are female graviers, rare and stronger than their graveyard husbands. They are the most powerful of all necrophages, the true queen of necrophages. All ghouls respect them and must bow before them. Dagon is an underwater being who is worshipped by a small sect of humans as a god who waits at the lake bottom for the right configuration of the stars so that it may return to wreak havoc across the land. Since it is uncertain when this will come true, it whiles its time away, terrorizing all who live both under the water surface and on land nearby. Devars are often called night witches because they resemble old, ugly women and are famous for their witch-like viciousness. These creatures gorge themselves on human flesh, although they are willing to eat carcasses. Above all, they crave flesh that is fresh and warm. Devars hunt in groups after dark. They like to deceive their victims and then torture them. Drowner. The Drowner, a frightful creature of mud and scum, drags people down into the mires of the bubbling eddies. It feeds on young women who bathe in rivers and on occasion will pull men off their horses or carts as they cross a bridge or weir. Drowners arise from the bodies of villains who met their end in running water or in undertows that appear after storms. These watery creatures embody the spirit of those who can't rest after death and are sometimes born by the fetuses aborted by magical means. They are ugly in appearance, skinny, tall, and bony. Their bodies are slimy and green, as is their hair. It is easy to track a drowner, for wherever a drowner steps, pools of slime are left behind. Fletter. Fletters are lesser vampires, but this description can be deceiving, for lesser does not mean weak or stupid. True, they are primitive and bear closer relation to animals than human, but when they drop on their prey from above, they can be just as dangerous as their noble cousins, even to a witcher. Most people believe that fletters are the dead heathens who turn into vampires and rose from their graves. Being vampires, they attack sleeping people and drink their blood. According to peasants, a man bitten by a fletter becomes a fletter himself. Frightener. The Frightener is a desert-dwelling monster. It is nearly invincible, especially when controlled by a mage. Even witches prefer to avoid fighting this beast if they can. Fortunately, this overgrown insect is sensitive to loud noises, which deafens it and renders it defenseless. The first Frightener was created by a mage. After creating the beast, he is said to have exclaimed, "What have I done?" Garcsons. Garcsons are lesser vampires, so foul and so ugly that the mere sight of one paralyzes opponents. Apart from using its ugliness as a weapon, the Garcson has at its disposal an amazing variety of ways to pin down victims and suck their blood. Garcsons are also drawn to fresh meat or even corpses. Garcsons are often mistaken for gargoyles because they lurk on rooftops, waiting to dive on their victims. Golem. A golem is a creature made of stone or wood, brought to life by a mage and animated with the use of magic. Its tough body is immune to most sword blows. A golem can be stopped by its maker. Usually, the giant is set in motion by a lightning bolt, so a major electric shock might incapacitate it or even annihilate it. A golem uses its superhuman strength to knock down, rip in half, or crush opponents. Grave heirs. Grave heirs are depraved, lecherous, and treacherous bastards. Larger than ghouls, they have 3 bony combs on their head and short but cruel, thick claws. Their teeth and thin tongue allow them to eat marrow, and the more rotten and rancid this marrow becomes, the more it is to their liking. Grave heirs appear wherever they can find food. Any carcass will do. They are immune to poisons, but fear fire and silver, because steel causes them no harm. Griggs. Griggs are quite possibly the smallest of the recognized races. When standing next to a human, they reach his knee at best, and due to this, an unruly child is sometimes called a foolish imp. Since the height would never allow them to sit a horse, they mount cats. A Grig is usually fat, has a broad nose, pointed ears, and very much likes to wear some sort of hat. Greater mutants. These creatures are failed experiments and botched attempts to create the perfect mutant. Susceptible to steel swords, these creatures are slow but strong. Their tough skin and thick muscles protect them from most blows. Kiki Moor. Kiki Moor, or Kiki Moora, is an insectoid monster species that lives underground as well as in swamps. Kiki Moors are spidery shaped with dry black skin. They have glassy eyes with vertical pupils and needle-like fangs with bloody jaws. There are 3 types of Kiki Moor: a Kiki Moor queen, a Kiki Moor warrior, and a Kiki Moor worker. Make sure that you subscribe and click that bell so you can be notified when I drop part 2 and beyond of the Witcher monsters from A to Z. Peace and stay sexy.